This is your friendly neighborhood Naiche coming to you from beautiful Spokane, Washington. I'm here to show you a little bit about some of the basing stuff that I'm doing for my Sons of Horus Force, the Chainbound. Based on the fact that they are crawling from the ruins of Istvaan III, and these are the survivors of the survivors, so those who didn't make it. So I'm including as much industrial and kind of some of the more specifically like little bits of armor or other pieces that indicate a more industrial area is part of what I'm trying to emphasize for the basing structure for my figures. Now, generally to do this, you're going to start with plain basic bases, which is based. You're welcome. But ultimately, just a little bit of super glue, and then there's any number of ways that you can do this. I don't even know if there's any super glue in here. See, this is why James brought his own stuff. Oh, got some. We're good. So, and I'm just kind of dolloping it on. I don't know. I don't care. It's all. Now, these corks, and it might be hard to see from where you are, but they are two different widths. There's a 1 millimeter and a 2 millimeter. So generally what I'm just going to do is kind of pull some chunks off of it. Part of what I love about cork is how it both absorbs that and creates a natural buildup. And this is going to create rough and somewhat irregular patterning that's going to go on that base. And even though this has like a solid edge, there's nothing saying that I can't use that. And normally what I'll do if I do have a solid edge is I'll take some of the plasticard. All of this stuff I was fortunate to be able to find locally at the shop that I go to, the Gamers Haven. But this is, so for example, in this case, I'm just ripping it. And that's done in a way because I don't want it to be clean. Do you have any clip nippers? A cheap pair will work. Chintzy, stupid. I don't need anything great or spectacular. Beauty. So, and this is probably the worst pair of nippers you're going to find. They're not the worst. They're just the most plain and basic. What I like to do, especially with a piece of plasticard that's flat like that, is I'll go in and I'll just kind of stamp it with a bunch of different cuts. And that'll actually provide a lot of detail into an otherwise flat and detailless. And I'll just kind of rip some chunks out of it and give it kind of that little more war-torn vibe overall. Okay. And those chunks I'll generally save too. This is plastic cement. This is one that I started out not caring much about, and it's kind of grown on me. But then what I will end up doing is I will try and take, and I'll put, because what this is going to do is melt the plastic on both sides. So I will tend to try to make this all melty. And because I know I've got a solid edge there, that's going to provide some kind of context as far as, oh, well, maybe that was a thing that was actually pre-existing beforehand. And so it kind of gives a natural place to put that. So, and then, of course, again, these are not like high-end God hand or anything like that. Just a good clip, and that's going to let me pull a good chunk of this away. And again, getting a little more melty moo. So those are two bases that they're relatively, that one's already, it's not melted in all the way because you just saw me build it. It was literally moments ago. Might want to reinforce with that, just let it melt on there. So there are two bases that are at kind of what I would call stage one. From there, now there's other ways you can build up. This is a two-part modeling epoxy putty. It's really simple and straightforward. It's similar to what I would call like an epoxy sculpt. It makes a really neat sort of a plasticky kind of finish to it that is really nicely sculptable. There's a lot you can do with it, but in this case, I'm just being really gross and brutal with it. These two bases have dried as they are, and they are kind of ready for what would be the next step in this process, which is one of the things that I love about cork is how, you know, how it is random and it makes a nice basing material overall. What I hate about it is the thing that makes it easy to work with is also the thing that makes it easy to fail and fall apart. It chips really well, and then there's nothing better than having a nice black and grimy base, and then you knock a chunk out of it and you see a bright, warm cork underneath. So what I'll do, what I've learned is this. I use a basing paste. This one happens to be from Pro Acryl, and I like the fine basing paste. And then what I'll just end up doing is over the top of the cork, because this acts as both kind of a basing material as well as a paint, it does help to seal it. And then I'm also going to end up, varnishing and all kinds of things over that. But what I'll end up doing is just sort of coating these bases in this basing material, and it's going to not only lend credibility to the cork, it will blend it into the rest of the base around it, and ideally it will help protect those quirky edges from chipping and coming off and causing me grief later on down the line, because my perfectionism is going to see it and go, I hate you, Naiche. But it's okay. See this? And now it looks much more naturally gritty, grimy. This is definitely, while it does lack some of the flair of some of those other iron metal pieces, it's still going to blend in really seamlessly with the rest of how these bases are going to look, if only because all of this is coming together, and it will all be primed and painted and based the same way, so that when I am ready with the models, I can simply pin them in by drilling a pinhole. Maybe I'll show you that later when I get to that point. But for right now, I'm just kind of trying to give it, and again, does not need to be perfect because it is not primed. There's nothing else to it but to apply this stuff. It's really straightforward. That's really all there is to it. So those are the two I've just finished. These are the two I will come back and either I'll add more to them or I'll base them with the paste later. Obviously, between the presenters you've probably seen, I'm the messier of the two of us, and that's fine. Yeah, all of this stuff is, if it should be available at your local friendly game store, and if it's not, you should ask them, see if they can get some for you. But otherwise, I hope that has been helpful, and this is just part of the process where I'm at with my current Sons of Horus army. So I look forward to sharing more with you in the future.